So welcome everybody. We're really happy that we can be here. First time in Russia for both Chen and myself. And we made it to get the visa. So we're really happy. During this session, we will take you to our kingdom, as we call it, and we will share our experience within culturalization. But most importantly, we would like to know what your thoughts are and what your knowledge is, what questions you have. And we thought we will talk a little bit and share ours, but we will also do an interactive session for the bigger part of the session. This is where the technical experiment comes in. So it's been 2 very interesting sessions so far. It's been a lot of listening for you. So let's just, before anybody drifts off, let's just try this technical thing and see if it works. So please take out a mobile phone and join us on Slido. You can either use slido.do or slido.com. It should take you to the same place. The code is 9364. And the question is, what does culturalization mean to you? So please type your answers. You can use one word, you can use short phrases, you can add several entrances or several, and the reason why we do this is not only to get you out of the listener mode, but also we would like to take the temperature and actually see, like, what do you know? Where are you in this world of culturalization? So is the adaptation is the most used word for now. Adapting content, adapting respect. Making an option. Interesting. So this one will be open during the entire session. So please keep on sharing. We also have, when you're logged into Slido, because you chose polls now, we also have one section called questions. In this section, I hope it's open. Is it open? Can someone confirm? Yes, it's open. Thank you. In this section, you can just type any topic that you would like to cover, and you will see each other's topics, and you can vote on anything that you find interesting to make sure we use this time and make it as valuable as possible for as many people as possible in this room. Perfect. So we had some help. You didn't need that. You made it yourself. Well done. So, what can you expect from this presentation, from this session? Well, we will start off with giving you a definition of what culturalization actually means, and we will explain different areas where culturalization can make a difference. And then we will also explain different types of culturalization. We already mentioned earlier, proactive and reactive culturalization can be a bit blurry, but what do we actually mean? What is it? And Chen will give some examples from our games, because it's not only Candy Crush Saga. During the second part, we already mentioned we will open up the floor for you and your topics, so anything you'd like to bring up, any question you'd like to ask, either to us or to the audience, just ask away in Slido. And we have brought two topics ourselves that we find very interesting. And the first one would be dangers of culturalization. And the second one is how can we measure impact. So let's jump right in. What does culturalization actually mean? So if you ask a dictionary, it will tell you culturalization is the process of adapting to one's cultural environment, the acquisition of values and behavior compatible with the society of which one is a member. Take that in for a moment. What does it mean for game content? Well, culturalization of games is necessary when the game content meets the cultural context of the market and the local cultures. And the goal of performing culturalization checks or performing any type of culturalization is to reduce the risk of potential issues, to make a game relevant for the target market, which increases engagement, of course, but also protecting the brand. So we understand it's important, but what content do we actually check? Well, we check everything. Character design, images, maps, flags, audio, story and scenarios, everything, depending on what game you're making. Perfect, thanks. So we have many potential pitfalls when it comes to releasing a game in different markets. Most of us know that. But to make it a bit easier, we can divide 4 different areas that are important to keep in mind when you try to ship a game to several markets. The first one would be history. Historical accuracy is sensitive in many cultures, and cultures are protective, of course, about their historical legacy and origins. So it's important to never alternate or tell an inaccurate history. And this concerns not only distant history, but also recent history or recent events, because people will most likely have the outcome of these events very fresh in their minds, and there can be lots of emotions tied to this as well. So it's very important to be very sensitive, very sensible with this. The second one would be, religion and belief systems. And this is obvious, that many people feel very strongly about this, so it makes it very, very sensitive. Third one is ethnicity and cultural friction. This is a very, very broad category, actually, and it includes anything from disagreement, misperception, attitudes, and friction between cultural groups, but also the use of ethnic and cultural stereotypes, and the perception of inclusion and exclusion of specific groups. And the last one we call geopolitical situations. So national governments often use media, and including video games, to reinforce their idea of their local worldview. So if a government claims a certain territory, then they expect these to be shown as integrated in their territory, even on game maps, quite often. And in, for example, China and India, there are even laws to dictate how a national map needs to appear, and how the political situation must be shown as well. So this is something to be very mindful of. And overstepping this could have an immense impact on the marketability of the game. So for me, this means, well, when I was a kid, I grew up in Eastern Germany, and my parents always told me, if you want to be friends with everybody, never talk about religion, never talk about politics, and never talk about history. So we have 2 different types of culturalization. The first one would be proactive, And this means we're making the content meaningful. So we're adapting and providing local specific content for a specific market. So it's locally relevant, and we're boosting ideally the game's performance with this. So we're talking about specifically creating content for one or several markets. Reactive culturalization. We're making the content viable. So we're just actually putting out fires to avoid any disruptive issues going out live in the market. So we actually allow the game to stay in the market, and we're protecting our brand. So and with this, Chen will give you some examples.
Thank you, Carina. Starting from here, I'm going to show you one example of proactive culturalization and 5 examples of reactive culturalizations and their impact. Here, I need to hold this. The first proactive culturalization example is from our live game, Paradise Bay. The background is the game team. They want to create a live ops event. By the way, it's a mobile game, resource management game. For the players to boost the in-game revenue in February during the Chinese New Year, also called Lunar New Year. The original idea was to create a gathering event. It's a live up event, quite a regular event in the game, and that has involved some currencies, some shapes, and some pets. So building on this original idea, I collected, this is the initial pitch. I collected the Lunar New Year blessing package from Korea, and a New Year ship from China. And for the pets, I collected Shiba Inu, one of the cutest dog from Japan, for this event. So the actual outcome of this pitch is this. A faithful and playful island guardian, loyal, brave, and adorable. The game had to give up the idea of having a grand gathering event that has a lot of shapes and currencies. Instead, they built on this because of limited productivity. Fortunately, they adopted Shiba Inu to the island. This dog was released during Lunar New Year as the exclusive pet for the global players to purchase. It costs $20 for 10 days for exclusive. And another outcome that you cannot see here is they rebranded the old Chinese New Year wording to Lunar New Year because this is for the all Asian players to stay neutral for all Asian markets. The impact of these events, as you can see, the impact on gross booking and DAU. The main goal of this event is to attract the existing players of the game to pay more money. So as you can see, the gross booking here, there is a very big, very obvious peak during these events. However, the DAU is not, you cannot see any change because this event's purpose is not to attract new players. This is the case I want to share with you about the proactive culturalization, and follow up I'm going to show you more about reactive cases. This is building on what Carina just said. The reactive culturalization cases, the main goal is to avoid disruptive issues, protect our brand, and not to offend our players. And we have 3 severity levels to flagging potential issues for the game team. So this is very important for us. we have 3 severities. The high risk, obviously, it is highly recommended to implement the change. And the medium is we recommend the change for the relatively moderate risk. And the low risk is flagged for quite potential, and it's not recommended, but it's good to keep in mind. I have 3 examples to present those 3 different levels of severities. The first one will be the high severity. Okay. This character A, is a lesbian. This character A's girlfriend only exists in the story. In other words, she only exists in words. She doesn't have an image or design in the game. So, I think in this country, many of you can realize what the problem is. So it is risky to release the story in the countries that are not so friendly to non-traditional sexual relationships, such as Russia. And we are concerned that the game, because we are going to release the game in Russia, and we are concerned the game can be seen as propaganda of non-traditional sexual relationships, which will be estimated as illegal. So the solution is we adapting to heterosexual translations for specific markets. In other words, we will change her girlfriend, the words to her boyfriend, and change she to he for specific market. This is the high severity issue. Next will be the medium one. Character B is a wrestler, and he wears a cross, common to Mexicans of Catholic upbringings. This is not an actual in-game art. This is just a reference. So we flag this issue as medium level because this is a precaution tip that is suggests the game team to avoid to use any religious symbol in actual game design, for that would offend other religion groups. This is the medium level, no crosses or other religion symbols. And the last one will be the low severity level. We have character C is a Korean teenage girl who wears the traditional closed hanbok and holds a red umbrella. So the issue is the umbrella, because in traditional image of Korean, people usually hold white umbrella. But why this is not high or medium? Because red umbrella won't offend them. It's just not familiar to them. So the solution actually is, we will keep it, no solution, because this is a part of our game design. So apart from those 3 different severity levels, I have other 2 examples to share with you. That is concerning it's about the environmental arts check from our reactive culturalization case. Those 2 environmental arts are from another live game called Pyramid Solitaire Saga. This is the background art based on Tibet. I'm not sure if any of you can see the issue. Any idea? Sorry?
The skull in the middle there.
a good point, but it's not the real issue.
There is Buddha.
Buddha?
The image next to the skull.
Actually, it's very close. The real problems are the prayer flags. You see the colors? There are many colors in the images. And the words, there are a lot of symbols carved on the stones. The prayer flags has to be in blue, white, red, green, and yellow water. And the words carved on the stone are usually mantras of gods and goddess of Buddhism. So this is the revised art based on the correct order, the color order, and you can see the mantras carved on the stones. Those are the results based on the culturalization check. The second and the last example of this presentation is this one. As you can see, we have a Buddhism statue and a Shintoist Shen Dao are Tori, the red one, called Tori in Japanese. The problem is they combined Buddhism and Shintoist together in one image. So because those two religions have different origins, and it is disrespectful to mix two different religion symbols together. So the outcome we change is this one. The game team removed the Tori, the red gates there. Yeah, this is all the examples I want to share with you, and feel free to ask our questions at the later open discussion session. Before I hand over to Carina, I have 3 takeaways to share with you for today's presentation. The first takeaway is you always need to find the right timing and approach to the game team. For the proactive cases, it should be as early as at the designing phase, also at the reactive culturalization case as well. The second is to assess the potential severity. Yes, and the severity may vary depending on the game content and the expectation of the game team, but it's also important to make the actions clear. And the last one is to follow up on the implementations and impact of the culturalization, to sum up and do retros, to see what you have learned from the checks and from the suggestions. If it's proactive, you should collect the gross booking, the DAU, and any other related data. And for reactive cases, you need to collect feedback from the game team and follow up on the implementations. That's all.
Thank you, Chen. So that was what we had to tell you. Now we want you to tell us what you would like to, what's on your mind. So let's have a look on Slido where we are so far. And it's disconnected. Let me see. Anything working? Nope. This is what I love with technology. Oh yeah, now something happened. Okay, so here we have who put in skirt. This is interesting. Can that person please find me afterwards, because I'd like to know more about this. Shoes, user friendly. Right. Spider. Interesting. Text. Product. I guess someone put in the sentence or longer phrase. Interesting. So we keep this open. Just keep on entering things here. Let's see how we're doing with the questions. Top question. How do we measure quality? Interesting. We're keeping this open as well. Please keep on putting in questions and ideas. And let's start with this topic, dangers of culturalization. Is there anything, excuse me, that you can think of that could be a potential danger with doing culturalization? Can be either proactive or reactive. Anything?
Actually, just following up on one of the examples that you guys were showing was the Tibetan flags. The danger I sense was that is too much effort to fix the problem, very little ROI, and maybe no real impact to risk. So fixing the things that are not necessarily going to be a problem. Could you expand a bit on that? Why did you guys take the decision to fix the Tibetan flags? Because to me it seems like a very low risk issue, but I'm not an expert.
Actually, for us, the costs and the time we spend on it is not much as well, because the problem is found at the very early stage of the designing. So the designers will send out the art once they finish, but before they implement into the game. So we fix it as soon as possible. So it will be like, for us, it's 1 day turnaround, for 2 days turnaround. For them, it's also a quick fix. But for the issue, it can be big or small. Because King is quite a popular game company now, and we have a very large group of players. So we always try to eliminate the problems when it's early, even though it's small. And of course you will never know. And it's better to solve it than later.
Also, yeah, I just want to add, we're always focusing on quality, even if it's a small issue. Quality comes first, always. No, it's not offending anyone, which this potentially could have done. The flag order could potentially be offensive if it comes wrong. That's the difference. So we're doing an assessment of security.
I'm Marina from Playrix, and we actually do very similar things in our company. And I'm not sure if it's a danger of culturalization, but what we have to deal with is that our developers, our development teams, they are afraid that our culturalization efforts will make content sterile and very neutral and not interesting. I don't think that they're right, but maybe you have some thoughts about it.
We actually have the same concern that where is the line, when do we start limiting the game team's creativity? And we think it's important to approach the game team and to not tell them how to do it, but to give recommendations and show them what potentially could happen if they don't do it. So be more of an helper, but be very clear with what could happen. And also what we found is really helpful is if we have, all of the game teams are different, of course. If we have some game teams that are more open towards culturalization checks, then we can actually gather really nice examples from these games and use them as showcases. And it will make it easier to actually get people on board.
Actually, in contrary, I think that sometimes culturalization can make content more interesting. We also do Lunar New Year decorations and content, and I think with our help, with the help of our Chinese specialists, we can provide better content and more meaningful content for our Chinese audience then. Because all our development team members, they're Russians, they're based in Russia, and what they can do is only research those things in internet, like traditions maybe related to Chinese New Year or items, but who can know better than a Chinese person about Chinese New Year? Yeah, thank you.
May I just throw in a second order danger that I see coming from this approach? So if everybody is using Chinese Lunar New Year in their games, won't that cause them to be sterile again on this new, already culturalized level? And won't all the games have the very same culturalization inside if they don't invest not just in a local specialist, a linguist, but in a whole local creative team instead? Would that be like a second level risk? Are you guys seeing any of that? My concern is that, okay, culturalization is great. Starting with culturalization is easy, but then everyone is doing it, everybody is having the same type of content for Lunar New Year in their games. Wouldn't that be boring? Wouldn't that lead to lower conversion and lower engagement in the long run? Don't we need to do more than that if we want to stay on top of the game?
I can answer it, but maybe you want to. But I think so. I think you're working with culture, and culture is such a huge thing. It's like worrying that celebrating New Year in different games in Russian localization would be boring because everybody does New Year. Obviously, if we have a big market in China and in other Asian countries, then showing them some of their content would be interesting. And the very reason why it's important to have local or sort of native input about these things is because they have insight that we wouldn't be able to see. For example, if we just let our Russian developers come up with all the content themselves, then I think you're right, it would be very sterile and very stereotypical. That's why we need input from other people that actually know about how things get celebrated. If I can ask a question. That's sort of a follow-up to what Marina was asking about in your example about this lesbian character. Something that I sort of worry and wonder about is the difference between culturalization and censorship. And sometimes I feel like our developers think that we're trying to censor their ideas. And actually, with your example of the lesbian character, I think if they came up with this idea for a game, obviously some sort of activism was one of their goals, and obviously if you're going to remove that character in a locale where this would actually be doing something and be actually doing some activism, isn't that sort of that was the whole point. So aren't you losing something important there?
Yeah, thank you for bringing this up. It was actually otherwise on my list to bring it up, so thank you. Yeah, this is a really, really good question. And we've had a very, very long discussion internally about this because our company stands for being equal and being tolerant towards everyone. Doesn't matter who you are, you can come and you can be yourself when you're king. So yes, this was definitely hitting a sore point with many. What we did was we did bring up the concern, and we told the game team it could happen that there will be legal repercussions. Thank you. But it could also be that we're actually making a difference. Maybe what are we? But it's your risk. So we're never owning the risk. We always put the risk on the team who makes the decision. So we never do any decisions for them. We will give them different alternatives. We say, okay, you can leave it as it is. We might be taken down in several markets. Or we can check with our legal team, and see if they have any other ideas. Or we can do a retranslation and change the content. And in this particular case, it was a pretty easy thing to do, to just change the translations, and her girlfriend literally is just in words.
And what's the age rating for this game?
It doesn't have any yet. The skill
Okay.
is not live.
Because if you have a lesbian character, it automatically means that it's 18 plus in Russia. Like Sims 4, they have 18 plus rating in Russia because they have homosexual relationship, possibility of having homosexual relationship. And it's also, I think, it's an important issue for a company because it influences revenue.
Thank you for sharing. Are there any other thoughts on censorship? Like, where is the line between culturalization and censorship?
Hi, David Prince, VK.com. I had a question because you were talking about, cultural sensitivity in regards to religion. Now, in that game, of course, you're focusing more on, the Buddha, not mix it in with Japanese religions. However, you still have the Buddha. And in some countries, such as Thailand, they have a lot of respect towards the Buddha. And have you come into any problems using the Buddha in your games in regards to, because how do you do any research to tell whether certain religious iconography would actually cause a problem in a game or not? Because if you had, for example, Islamic or you had Christian things, some cultures might react a bit stronger towards that than they would towards images of the Buddha. So how did you decide whether that would be offensive or not offensive to some certain types of cultures?
Actually, this is a very good question, and I think we will take this as a very good inspirations that we can take back to the team and we can discuss for how to handle the religion symbols in our games. To be honest, to be very frank with you, we don't have any evaluation for all the religions in the world, but I think it's a very good idea to do a research about this.
Okay, thank you.
I agree. One thing I would like to ask is, I would like to add is that we do differ a bit between the visibility of the content. So if it is highest content, we would probably not choose to have any religious symbols in it. However, this one was a map background. And also it was in Tibet, so it was actually in a correct cultural setting. This, I think, is there is a slight difference in just showing religious symbols detracted from their background and showing them in their right cultural setting. But yeah, we do have a player insights team actually, and I think we should take your thought back to see what we can hear that. Okay. We have one more.
Yeah, I just wanted to riff a little bit on that. So at the high level perspective, we all seem to believe that cultures are kind of monolithic and we split them up in very huge chunks. Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, right? But the reality is much more complex, right? And you can split up Islam as well as Christianity or Buddhism into many different branches, right? So are we really going deeply enough in our efforts, if not to culturalize, but at least to prevent risk, right? And are we really properly considering all the aspects of each major religion or country when we do that? Because we seem to have a very simplistic worldview, especially as localization professionals. We know things are different, but we don't understand how many levels they are. So maybe it's not enough to just look at those, three major branches in this case, but maybe we should split it up. Christianity, at least, several Orthodox and non-Orthodox branches for Islam, right? How could we take this to the next level? How we can get them closer to our players without oversimplifying this worldview and the symbols that come with it, especially if we build stuff inside Western cultures? It's not a question, it's just more like an open statement. How can we do even more for our global player base?
I think we're running out of time. Otherwise, this would have been perfect ending. Focus groups. That's a good, yeah. Do you want to elaborate a bit about this?
Well, I think that if you gather some 20 or even more people from different backgrounds and show them different versions of the game and see what they say, maybe you have some sort of an idea of the quality of your culturalization and the impact as well, I think.
Perfect, thank
That's
you.
the idea.
We do that, however, we do not do it for culturalization at this point. We're having a lot of new ideas after this conference, which is awesome. Anyone else you would like?
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm with the Globalization Studio. So, do you guys just, is it just you? You have some kind of culturalization department? You don't have some local teams or focus groups? It's just you?
It's just us. No, we do. No, we are an in-house team of 11 people, but we also work closely with vendors. So we do not do any localization or culturalization really in-house. However, we do come, like our team comes from 9 different backgrounds. So actually we can sometimes flag and use each other's knowledge, but that's not the common process. So we, yeah.
Okay, great.
So I was just thinking that focus groups would be a really great thing to do, but then I realized that we sort of do the same thing. It wouldn't be very scientific, but we work with our translators, and we sort of make little focus groups out of them just to get feedback, and also with like community or like player support, also at looking at their response to things too, because they have people who are more specialized in the content that they create and more familiar with different cultures. This really helps us.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing.
I do a bit of market research as a side project, and one risk I've seen is specifically with concepts like focus groups and with using translators. So what happens is the people who have a lot of expertise, they tend to overemphasize the problems, and they see risk and they see issues where the average consumer, the average player would not. So they actually shoot down concepts that might actually go really well with your real audience. So in that sense, using translators, it's okay as a first step, like a proxy, but it's not the real deal. And the data from the actual players would probably be more reliable.
One thought that actually questions this one, sorry I saw you, is in today's very media friendly world, it takes only a couple of players to be really offended to make something go viral really, really quickly and to hurt the brand, damage it for in a second.
And about this question, and also just back to your question about the team, actually we have several queries and maybe a template or queries to address those problems. We are aware because sometimes people would exaggerate the problems and get back to us. That's why when we do this kind of research, we require the reviewer to provide actual links, the public research to support the theory. It's not kind of one opinion, but you have to support with materials. So what the problems are and how many people might be affected and what are those people. So it should be the fact support the theory.
Of course. Yes. We have one more question. You wanted to add something? Yeah.
First of all, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Medina. I'm from VK.com, and I wanted to say about the point that you made about translators being a bit too over. Yeah, I'm thinking that, well, maybe in your case when you have a lot of people who can fact check and you can have a focus group or make some, I don't know, market research or something, that's cool. You can outsource some help, but for companies that don't have that chance, they can just go off that list that your translators made and fact check it themselves like Google the cases. So I'm thinking that for small companies, translators are like a great idea.
Yeah, I agree. It's the first step, but they are not.
We have one more question over here.
Yeah, it's more of a statement. My name is Maria Milikova. I'm from G5 company. I think one of the issues with culturalization in general, and what I see in nowadays markets and all the games that I play on different platforms, is that can be either too little of culturalization in general when they go to a new market, or another issue, like a flip side, too much of culturalization in the game. It's particularly evident when the game has a plot, it's set in a particular setting, and suddenly you have balalaikas there, and bears there, and oh yeah, it's so Russian, thank you so much, but I feel that in some particular countries, you have to be sensible about what you can and cannot add, and many players might choose to play the game that is different from their culture to learn something new. I mean, you don't have to put Lunar New Year in every game. It's not that necessary. In fact, if the Chinese want to play a game about the life, for example, in New York, and they want to learn something that New Yorkers do, or maybe Russians do, and to see their balalaikas and bears.
That's a very, very good point. Thank you.
And I'd just like to add something about this concern about translators being overly, I don't know. Anyway, there's a life hack I'm using. I'm asking their friends. Not the translators themselves, but the friends of them. And that works much better.
Do you pay them for this?
Yeah, we do. But most likely, we try to pay with in-game stuff. Well, because that just takes 10 minutes. We don't do these huge research papers and stuff. We just ask questions. So that seems a bit fair.
You guys probably do beta testing for each version as we do. So I was thinking maybe we don't do this, but maybe it's a good idea to add specific questions to beta testers for players who beta test about cultural issues, about maybe new events or something. Have you ever tried this?
We have not. Good point.
We're in brainstorming mode now. I love it. If we can do some, apply some user experience research techniques to that, and trying to capture people's emotions when they see that culturalized content, that would be super cool, right? Because self-reporting of your perception is prone to, lots of bias. But when you have first-hand evidence, facial recording, for instance, and this sort of thing, that could even get you, even further than just the survey. Definitely a high-cost technique, but if the stakes are equally high, why not do it?
Yeah, definitely. One thing that we did also was we gathered people within the company with a certain background in a room. Yeah, you could say to just avoid what you just said of people being too sensitive or being too much of focusing on details. So that was actually a really interesting session as well. Okay. Does anyone else have any thoughts to share? Otherwise, I think we are at the end of our session and end of our time. All right, shall we take one more question? Or is anyone close to falling off their chairs and longing for lunch?
I want to go back to your question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your name clearly. About because players, they want to play other cultures feature, those kind of events. I think it's a very interesting point. And one thing I want to add here is our game do a lot of live ops for worldwide players. Like we do this culturalized live ops in different games and for different cultural backgrounds. So that game is not always about one region or one country. For like that pyramid solitaire saga, it's a trip that goes through different countries. That's why they can see Tibet, they can see Japanese Buddhism, they can see Japanese Shintoist temples. And also, I also have one kind of aspect for you to discuss. Actually, it's an open discussion in our team, and that we actually didn't have the answer. It's going back to the paradise space, Lunar New Year example. There's one risk that we didn't see in the beginning, that we did a very wide research before we proposed that idea to the team. And when the Shiba Inu released to the players, and there's feedback that surprised us. The Japanese players paid a lot. They are the ones that pay the most among all the countries. It's the number one. And there's a Japanese player that feedbacked to our customer service. That is, Shiba Inu is a Japanese dog. You are stealing this because this is Chinese New Year. Although we emphasize this because this event is branded as Lunar New Year, not Chinese New Year. But there's one thing is because this Lunar New Year, comparing to 3 East Asian countries, Korea, China, Japan, Japan has the least, it has the slightest attachment to this one. Korea and China actually, they still value this traditional festival a lot, but Japan, they are more tend to have the January one, the worldwide New Year. They don't have a lot of celebrations to the traditional Lunar New Year anymore. That's why they also call it Chinese New Year. This is the one problem that we missed, to be honest, and that also made us to think, oh, how about those unforeseen risks, and where's the line of we censor of content?
And then there are also there's a big difference between like what is actually an issue and what is more of, I don't know, what people make people laugh. For example, we had a cat in our game Bubble Witch 3 Saga, and that cat was called Vela, which in Latin Spanish means like smoking a joint. But again, like we didn't release that name, but it would probably not have made a big. I don't know. I don't know exactly. So we had one more. Yeah.
It's a similar one. Didn't you get the feedback from Chinese players saying, "Why do you sell us the Japanese dog for Lunar New Year?"
It's very interesting. Chinese players, they didn't complain at all. Because for your information, this year, according to lunar calendar, it is the year of dog. That's why we released the Shiba Inu to all the players. And yes, I'm glad they love it.
Wait, do we have any questions? What year is it now? Does anyone want to answer that one? Okay, I think we've answered. What translation services do you use? What translation services? Because I think we answered the first 3. Yeah, actually, in Sweden, everybody goes at 12, except our team, because none of us, we have one Swedish person, but the rest is like going in more continental. Okay. Well, we do have, I'm not really sure I understand the question correctly, but we do, of course, like, we outsource our translations, and we do regular LQA. And we do, like, for very visible content, we would do these culturalization checks. And also we still like evangelizing culturalization towards all the game teams, so we are trying to find good providers and making it valuable for everyone. Don't be upset. Right, the last question actually I can't answer, the content do we exchange, because we haven't really done this. we haven't really exchanged any content, to be honest. What our game teams are very reluctant to supporting the culturalization or globalization department in setting up A/B tests. So what we actually did was doing A/B tests of a globalized version versus a non-globalized version to just see the impact. But we haven't actually done it with any exchanged content because that would be, I guess, too much of a workload on the game team side to prepare two different versions. For now, I mean, never say never, maybe we can convince them, but for now we haven't, unfortunately. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being active and being the friendly crowd you've been, and enjoy your lunch.